Good morning, everyone. Jeremiah, am I heard? Can I be
Yes,
heard?
madam. Yes,
Loud and clear. Okay. I see we just have a number of our participants who have joined in. I just want to make a special request to give others a few minutes. We have about 120 registered participants. If you could allow us to start in the next 3 or so minutes, just to allow everybody else to come on board. Thank you so much for your understanding.
Good morning, everyone. And welcome to this session. My name is Kentis Tikolo. I'll be the moderator. I'm the Managing Director for Cause Impact Limited. And I wish to welcome you once again to this session. And Alice, you want to say something before we start? I can see a number of people are rushing in. Please admit them so that we can have a full quorum.
Thank you very much, Kentis, and good morning, everyone. My name is Alice Koech, and I just want to greet everyone and welcome you all to this commemorative webinar for the 2022 International Girls in ICT Day celebrations, which is kindly hosted and organized by ATU in conjunction with the Child Online Africa. The theme for this celebration is empowering African girls for active involvement in the digital transformation. And before I hand over the microphone to the moderator, just a few housekeeping issues which I would like to raise. One of which is to kindly request all of us to remain, to have our microphones mute, except if you have been given the floor to speak. The second one is if you have a question that you wish to share, kindly share that question on the chat box or raise it when the time comes. And the final one is that we have interpretation services If you look at the buttons below your screen, you will see the button written interpretation. Kindly click on that button and it will give you two choices, English or French. Kindly select the choice that you prefer to listen in. And with that, I think I can now hand over comfortably to the moderator, Madam Kentis Tikolo. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice, and karibuni sana. I'm hoping that all of us understand what karibu is. And before we start, I would like us to just recognize the fact that Kenya is mourning the passing of our third president, His Excellency Emilio Mwai Kibaki. And so I'd like to request that we just observe a minute's silence in recognition of this very important day for us in Kenya. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Thank you for giving that honor to our late former president, Mwai Kibaki. Today is an important day, not just for the girl child in Africa, but around the world in relation to ICT. We all agree that the world is moving, being controlled and being directed by ICT. And the question is, why is it that the girl child, after all this time, is still left behind in relation to ICT and in relation to STEM? And the STEM being science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And so it's an important discussion we are going to have today. It will be great to hear the what. What is the problem? The why is it a problem? The when is this problem going to be resolved? What are the issues around it? The how are we going to resolve some of these challenges that we face? And to kick us off is none other than our Secretary General, John Omo. If you can just give us your opening remarks as we set the stage for today's webinar. Karibu, Bwana Omo.
Thank you very much, Kentis. Just confirm that I can be heard.
Yes, you can. We can hear you.
Thank you very much again for that confirmation and for giving me the opportunity to address this gathering. Indeed, as I do, let me start by honoring Her Excellency Madam Aminata Sebro Saban, Minister of the Digital Economies of the great country of the friendly people of Burkina Faso. Madam, we are very grateful that hardly within 3 months of you getting to the ministry, you have found the opportunity to be with us at this important event, and indeed we count it a great honor. Let me also recognize the presence of Madam Anne Rachel of the Itu Regional Office, the director herself. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Madam Awo Aidama Menya, she's so passionate about the girl child and child online activities in Africa that sometimes I feel I'm not doing enough for her. Madam Alicia Tambe, Meta ATU Associate Member, for being with us. Dr. Wale Olanrewaju, Lecturer, School of Agriculture and Environmental Technology, Nigeria. Carol Ekiarisima, Coding Clubs and Mentorship, incubation and computer framework. One of our budding, young girls, Abigail Yok-Bote, one of the girls doing STEM education in Ghana, who really appreciate your presence here. Ladies and gentlemen, let me just begin by thanking you for the honor of being here and honoring our invitation, and for your interest in this very noble agenda. This month, particularly this week on Thursday, the world, including the stakeholders that are present here, will be celebrating the International Girls in ICT Day. And really, it is in that context that before going any further, I'd like to take this time to appreciate all female colleagues in this forum. You are the torchbearers, the trailblazers, a source of inspiration to our African girls, and we thank you for your contribution to the ICT sector and for this very special role that you play in our society, especially when we have our policymakers at the helm of ICT, like Madame Aminata Zebro, heading a very important ministry in Burkina Faso. Esteemed colleagues, although brought together because of this important event, I also firmly believe that such convening is inevitable given the grim reality and some not very encouraging statistics that Africa has. For example, our population as a continent stands at 1.4 billion. And out of the 1.4 billion, 50% of that population, that is, in fact, over 700 million are women, just over half. And so while over half of our population are women, they account for only 28% of those pursuing STEM careers in all our universities across Africa, merely 28%. And that can be translated to mean that only a small percentage of our girls take up and complete STEM education compared to the African boy. In fact, the other bit of the statistics is that while 28% join, a good number, perhaps upwards of a half of them, don't complete for various reasons. And so these facts are sobering, and the reason why we are the very reason why we are gathered here today, because as stakeholders, we need to increase our involvement of women in ICT sector now and in the future. One way we can guarantee an increase of African women participating in ICT field in the future is by creating an enabling framework that empowers and encourages our African girls and young women to take up STEM education. Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen, at the ATU, we recognize that the digital inclusion is a fundamental aspect in the acceleration of Africa's digital transformation. And we need to work towards closing all the gaps, including the gender digital divide. As stakeholders in the industry, I therefore ask you on behalf of the union, not only to allow the African child, girl child for that matter, to grow up in a society, not to allow the African child rather to grow up in a society that is limiting their potential by telling and showing them in many ways that the pursuit of studies and a career in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics is meant for men and is beyond their reach. And that is the stereotype that we have in several of our societies grown up with, that STEM is meant for the boy child, which is false. And just as a society has made it normal for our African boys to explore STEM and advance in those fields, we need to work on building a society that encourages truly our African girls to do the same. Let me reiterate that to achieve the digital transformation goals that we have set for our continent, at the level of the African Union, at the level of our national governments and regulators, at our level as the ATU, working, of course, with the African Union. We will need, deep-rooted, hands-on approach to some of these challenges. We will need competent human capacity that is focused on exploring all options and ideas to create, innovate, and promote technological advancement in our continent, including for our very able women in the continent. Additionally, by promoting the active involvement of women in ICT and STEM education, we are giving them an equal opportunity to contribute their personal, family, and national development, and consequently, the region's socio-economic development. The challenges holding back our girls and young women from pursuing STEM education are many, with some stemming from our very deeply rooted, entrenched cultures that need to be challenged and changed in order to promote digital gender equality. Starting from our homes, our girls face gender norms, biases, and stereotypes that encourage them or completely hinder the uptake of STEM education. Our girls also lack the needed digital exposure and career guidance to pursue STEM education and consequently careers in the ICT sector. These are just some of the challenges they face and those that we will have to address as key stakeholders in this industry. In Africa, we say it takes a village to raise a child. A very common proverb and saying in whichever part of Africa that you go to. It takes a village to raise a child. I dare say it will take the African community working together to deal with these challenges and promote the active involvement of African women in ICT now and in the future. It is the reason why we have brought all of us together, and we have key stakeholders who have the power to change this narrative by virtue of their mandate and role in our society, right at ministerial level, at regulatory level, and operational levels. We also know that in your capacity, you have taken action to create the uptake of STEM education and careers in ICT, and we commend you for that. However, we have gathered in order to say that we cannot do it alone. We need to harness our resources, cooperate with each other for the good of the girl child in this continent. For Africa to feel the impact of these actions, we need to share and encourage the implementation of these good practices across the region. Through this discussion, we want to develop a good practice report that will be shared with key stakeholders in the continent for adoption and implementation, more so as we head towards the World Telecommunications Development Conference. We have, as Africa, doing a common proposal in this area in order to focus and reorient the African women towards various ICT goals that we have set at the level of ITU, and we do hope that when the ministers meet at WTDC, we'll get their support in this regard. I therefore encourage you to share your experiences freely so that we can empower other stakeholders to promote the increase and involvement of African women in ICT. We who are leaders in this industry have been accorded a great privilege and responsibility, and it is my hope that even as we address this issue, we should always remember that collaboration leads to a greater impact. Collaboration leads to a greater impact. Working alone, we can do a lot, but working together, we can do a lot and go far. And so we need not carry this responsibility alone, and guided by that spirit of collaboration and the objective of closing the continent's digital divide, including gender divide. At this union, we will soon be launching a youth mentorship program with emphasis on the girl child. We encourage you to support this endeavor, and as we call upon you to provide mentorship, internship opportunities for this younger generation and the girl child in particular. I now therefore wish to welcome you to this forum and to urge you to share your experiences and insights, strategies freely on this very important subject. Thank you very much for listening to me. Over to you, moderator.
Thank you, SG, John Omo, for such an illuminating start of this webinar. It's very clear that, yes, we do have issues around girls participating in ICT, and yet we have women. We have women who are trailblazing, and so we need to take advantage of these women, see the opportunities, and see how we can make girls more involved in ICTs. At this point, I'd like to request that we take a photograph so that we just have an idea of who is around. And the ATU technical team is requesting that you rename yourself so that the official name can come through. But for this moment, could we please put on our videos? Everyone put on your video so that we can get the photograph taken, an official photograph taken. Winnie, Jesse, who is taking charge, can you see all of us? Has everybody put on their videos? Luckily, it's not at night, so I'm sure we are all fine. Just make sure that you're smiling, and please let us know when the photograph is done so that we can then move to the next session. Alice?
Our tech person, Chere, please confirm you are through.
Just a minute. Okay, we are done now.
Thank you for that. Perhaps at the end, we might want to take another photograph. I can see we have more participants coming in. We are talking about the girl child and ICTs, and who more than the trailblazing women should we hear from in terms of what's happening at the moment. We want to talk about what the government is doing to promote the active involvement of women in the African ICT sector now and in the future. And so we are privileged to have Her Excellency, Madame Aminata Zebro-Sabane, Minister, the Ministry of Development of the Digital Economy and Postal Services, Burkina Faso. Madam Minister, you're most welcome to address us.
Merci bien, Madame la modératrice. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, les ministres en charge des télécommunications, Monsieur le secrétaire général de l'UAT, Madame la représentante régionale de l'IUT pour l'Afrique, éminents panélistes, mesdames et messieurs, je voudrais avant de débuter mon propos adresser mes sincères condoléances au peuple kényan pour le président qui vient de nous quitter. Je voudrais, pour introduire mon propos, remercier l'Union africaine des télécommunications pour l'opportunité offerte au Burkina Faso d'apporter sa contribution à la Journée internationale de la jeune fille dans l'éthique. En tant que femme ministre en charge des télécommunications et d'éthique et engagée depuis plusieurs années dans la promotion du genre, la participation à ce panel revêt pour moi une importance particulière. C'est pourquoi je voudrais féliciter encore une fois l'Union africaine des télécommunications, l'Union internationale des télécommunications et tous ceux qui ont contribué à la tenue effective de la Journée internationale des filles dans l'éthique. Je peux dire que c'est un thème d'actualité. C'est un thème d'actualité parce que nous avons à ce niveau, on va dire, deux obstacles. Il y a déjà l'Afrique qui connaît un certain retard par rapport justement au développement ou en tout cas l'utilisation d'éthique pour booster son développement socio-économique, mais les femmes encore plus. Donc, déjà devant cette difficulté pour l'Afrique, les femmes ont encore plus de difficultés à soit accéder à ces nouvelles technologies, à les utiliser ou à en être elles-mêmes des actrices. Donc, c'est vraiment un thème d'actualité et c'est ensemble, en tout cas, avec une synergie d'action, en mettant ensemble nos intelligences, que nous allons pouvoir trouver des mécanismes, en tout cas, pour promouvoir l'éthique au niveau des femmes en Afrique et permettre à ces femmes-là de pouvoir, elles aussi, bénéficier du potentiel de ces technologies-là, tant sur le plan professionnel que sur le plan personnel. Honorables invités, distingués panélistes, mesdames et messieurs, le Burkina Faso est engagé dans la prise en compte de la question du genre, plus précisément de la promotion de la femme dans toutes les actions de développement. Donc, pas seulement au niveau de TIC, mais dans tous les secteurs, il y a cette promotion-là qui est mise en avant pour encourager la participation des femmes. À ce titre, le pays s'est doté en 2009 déjà d'une politique nationale du genre en tant que manifestation concrète de sa volonté politique et de son engagement à aborder de manière structurelle la lutte pour l'égalité entre les hommes et les femmes dans les secteurs de la vie culturelle, sociale, mais également économique du Burkina Faso. Ce document de politique a pour ambition de parvenir sur le long terme à réaliser l'équité et l'égalité du genre par l'instauration d'un environnement socioculturel, juridique, économique et institutionnel favorable à l'institutionnalisation du genre dans les politiques sectorielles, les programmes et projets de développement et également dans la gouvernance. Elle doit aussi permettre d'impulser au niveau de tous les acteurs des réflexes genre sensibles pour un changement de comportement favorable au respect du droit à la différence et à l'égalité des sexes dans l'accès, la gestion et le contrôle des affaires nationales, locales et familiales. Comme vous pouvez le constater, le Burkina Faso possède ce cadre d'orientation et de référence pour l'ensemble des acteurs en vue d'une prise en compte de la dimension genre à tous les niveaux. Ainsi, au sein des départements ministériels, pour pouvoir mettre en œuvre, en tout cas cette politique-là, des cellules genre sont mises en place pour veiller à la prise en charge de cette problématique-là. Et dans cette dynamique, on pourra se rendre compte qu'il y a dans plusieurs programmes, dans plusieurs activités, cette notion de genre ressort et on encourage la participation des femmes, soit par des quotas, soit par des activités destinées uniquement aux femmes. Donc, c'est ce qui se fait non seulement par moment dans mon département, mais également par des acteurs de la société civile ou des ONG, ou lorsqu'il y a une activité ou même des bourses, un quota genre est prévu pour encourager les femmes à postuler et s'assurer de leur participation dans ces activités-là. Mesdames et messieurs, éminents panélistes, mesdames et messieurs, comme je le disais tantôt, la société civile joue un rôle important dans cette promotion du genre, dans la promotion de l'accès aux TIC des femmes, leur utilisation de cette technologie-là, mais également pour qu'elles soient actrices elles-mêmes, voilà, des outils, de la production des outils numériques. Donc, il est aujourd'hui important pour moi de saluer leur action qui complète également celle du gouvernement. Ils sont un relais auprès de cette cible-là qu'on veut plus numérique parce que c'est quand même, comme on le dit, l'autre moitié du ciel. Et selon les statistiques, on a encore plus de femmes que d'hommes. Il est donc important que ces femmes-là également participent à cette révolution numérique-là si nous voulons la réussir et en tirer tout le bénéfice. Au niveau donc de la société civile ou des organisations de la société civile, on peut saluer certaines des actions justement qu'ils mènent à l'endroit de ces jeunes filles-là. Ce sont des actions de sensibilisation pour démystifier un tant soit peu le numérique. Ce sont également des actions de formation, des cas de formation où elles apprennent à soit utiliser le numérique ou à elles-mêmes, comme je le disais, être actrices en fait en produisant des outils numériques. Voilà. C'est également des cadres où on leur présente des modèles de femmes pour les encourager et leur montrer que c'est possible d'embrasser une carrière en fait dans le numérique et que ce n'est pas juste une question d'homme. Voilà. Donc, ainsi, lors des éditions précédentes de la Journée internationale de la jeune fille dans l'éthique, une diversité d'activités a été organisée dans les universités, mais également dans d'autres cadres pour atteindre la jeune fille, la sensibiliser et l'encourager à dépasser ses appréhensions et à découvrir le monde du numérique. Nous sommes en étroit lien avec ces associations-là, ces organisations, que nous appuyons du mieux que nous pouvons pour que ces actions-là puissent atteindre les objectifs, aller plus loin, voilà, dans la sensibilisation et la mobilisation des jeunes filles dans le domaine du numérique. Et notre accompagnement se traduit parfois par des dons de matériel, par notre participation et notre contribution à la réalisation de leurs activités. Donc, ce sont de véritables partenaires dans cette recherche d'inclusivité, on va dire, dans le numérique, en amenant plus de femmes à utiliser les outils numériques, mais également à pouvoir en créer. Donc, ils sont un véritable relais pour nous dans l'atteinte de ces objectifs-là. Mesdames et messieurs, éminents panélistes, honorables invités, il est unanimement admis que l'éthique constitue le principal moteur de l'atteinte des objectifs de développement durable et est aujourd'hui un facteur essentiel de la compétitivité des entreprises et des nations. À ce titre, je voudrais saluer l'initiative du présent webinaire sous l'égide de l'UAT. Le thème retenu, à savoir autonomiser les filles africaines pour une participation active à la transformation numérique, est pertinente et j'en ai déjà parlé au début de mon intervention, et fait écho également à certaines actions développées au Burkina Faso et particulièrement dans mon département. Je voudrais donc encourager l'UAT à poursuivre et renforcer ces actions-là qui viennent compléter celles que nous menons sur place et qui visent aussi à doter nos États d'environnements propices et d'initiatives pertinentes, nous permettant d'atteindre cet objectif-là. Je ne vais pas être très longue. Je vais souhaiter en tout cas des échanges fructueux, des interventions qui nous permettent en tout cas de mettre en lumière des mécanismes, de partager des bonnes pratiques pour pouvoir mieux prendre en compte cette problématique-là et améliorer la participation des femmes dans le monde numérique. Encore une fois de plus, je voudrais féliciter Monsieur le secrétaire général et toute son équipe pour l'organisation de ce webinaire et souhaiter qu'à la fin, nous puissions avoir des recommandations pour nous permettre d'aller plus loin, en tout cas, dans les actions que nous menons pour plus d'inclusivité de la jeune fille dans l'éthique. Pour terminer mon propos, je voudrais profiter de l'occasion qui m'est offerte pour vous informer que le Burkina Faso, membre actif de notre Union, est candidat à sa réélection au Conseil de l'UIT de l'UAT. Nous remercions donc tous les membres, tous les États membres pour leur soutien indéfectible et sollicitons une fois de plus leur soutien. Donc, encore merci pour cette thématique, comme je l'ai dit, qui me touche particulièrement. Et je termine avec l'espoir qu'on ait de plus en plus des femmes qui portent haut le flambeau de la transformation digitale, du numérique pour un développement socio-économique de nos sociétés à travers cet outil-là. Plein succès à nos travaux. Vive la coopération internationale. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, Your Excellency, the Minister, for such wonderful words. You've talked about frameworks, you've talked about policies, you've talked about affirmative action, and you've talked about deliberate efforts to ensure that the girl child and women are involved. All very important. But most important also is the fact that you've mentioned that we need to be deliberate about the actions that we take to include the women. Thank you so much for these insights. And it's time now for us to get a global perspective that discusses how the continent could promote the future involvement of women in the ICT sector. And for this, we are privileged to have Ms. Anne-Rachel Ine, Regional Director for Africa from ITU. Ms. Ine, would you kindly address us?
Thank you very much, Kentis. I hope you can all hear me.
Sorry, we can't hear you. We can't hear you, Ms. Ine. We can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Not yet. Not yet.
Not yet? Okay, hold on. I may have to take off the earpiece. Can you hear me, Kentis?
Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. It was the translation that was still on. Apologies. Yeah, so just go right ahead. And perhaps to just let people know that if you can't get the language, use the translation button, which is at the bottom, so that you can make sure that the interpretation is getting to you. Ms. Ine, apologies for the interruption. Please go right ahead.
Thank you very much, Candice. Excellences, Madame Zerbo-Savané, Monsieur le Secrétaire Général de l'UAT, Mesdames et Messieurs les représentants des États membres, distingués participants, Mesdames et Messieurs, it is a really great pleasure to join you in the Girls in ICT celebrations as we aim to promote the active participation of young girls and women in the ICT sector and empower them to engage in digital transformation. So I would like to hereby really send my warm congratulations and thanks to ATU and to Child Online Africa for organizing this session, because it is definitely important, as Mr. Omo said, and Her Excellency also just reiterated. Whereas science, technology, and innovation are the key drivers of the increasingly global society, only 28% of the world's workforce in this area are women, as Mr. Omo said, which continues to widen the digital gender divide. This inequality persists through the 21st century, highlighting the urgent need for diversity, equity, and inclusion of women in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and their increased participation in digital technologies. So according to ITU and some of the latest indicators that we have, 48% of women are using the internet globally, in comparison to 55% of men. Specifically in Africa, the proportion of women using the internet amounts to 24%, compared to 35% of men. The main goal of the Girls in ICT Day aims to cultivate the presence and digital skills of young women and girls in the career field of STEM, particularly in ICTs, in an effort to bridge the gender-digital divide. And the theme of this year is on access and safety. This was selected with a mindfulness that access and safety are our initial step for girls and women to access the digital environment. Challenges experienced by women in accessing internet and safety while online hinders their ability to develop digital skills and diminishes their opportunities to pursue careers in the ICT field. The recent experience following the unprecedented COVID-19 pandemic has shown that digital technologies are fundamental for business continuity, and at the same time highlighted the challenges of access and safety while online. It is therefore important that through our combined effort, as SG and the Minister said, that we continue to share knowledge and experiences to equip young girls and women with relevant digital skills to bridge the digital divide, gender divide, and ensure improved access to digital technologies in a safe manner. In collaboration with different partners, and all relevant stakeholders, ITU emphasizes the engagement of young girls and women to join the ICT sector through different initiatives that include, but are not limited to, the African Girls Can Code initiative that aims to create opportunities for girls in Africa by equipping them with digital skills and coding capabilities that can empower them for future career choices, as well as contribute to closing the gender digital divide. The ITU Enhanced Integrative Framework project focuses on enhancing economic opportunities for women through workshops and skills training. The Itu-Unicef Joint Giga initiative aims at improving connectivity for schools and host communities to improve access to educational resources and provide connectivity in hard-to-reach areas. The Africa Network of Women is a community of female delegates, and I salute a lot of them who are actually present at this webinar. So it aims to build a network and share experiences and knowledge in ICT and promote active participation of women in ITU activities, including the next World Telecommunication Development Conference. The Africa Youth Group, called Generation Connect, offers the youth in Africa a virtual platform to discuss opportunities and challenges related to digital technologies. To this end, I would like to take this opportunity to invite you to join us in the General Connect Global Youth Summit and the World Telecommunication Development Conference. Both will take place in Kigali, Rwanda. So for the Youth Summit from 2 to 4 of June, and for the World Telecommunication Development Conference from 6 to 16th June. During the conference, we aim to explore innovative models of collaboration for connectivity and digital solutions that can shape the future of digital development globally. And I would think this is the case to reiterate again, we have to be deliberate in making sure that women's development, digital development is taken care of. And I know SD is working on that. So thanks for that, and thanks for being our champion. For example, through the Partner to Connect initiative, which is a multi-stakeholder coalition, we aim to foster meaningful connectivity and digital transformation in the hardest to connect communities, with 4 main focus areas that include connecting people everywhere, empowering communities, building digital ecosystems, and incentivizing investment. I'd like to thank you all for the collaboration, and I encourage all the young girls and women to actively engage in digital technologies and participate in their local digital ecosystems to advance digital transformation in the Africa region, to bridge the gender digital divide. It is truly important that we work not only for our own local communities at our country's level, but also at our region level. ATU is showing us the way. So thanks for doing that, and let's be engaged. Thank you for your kind attention, and thank you for giving me this platform, ATU and African Child Online. Thank you very much. Back to you, Kentis.
Thank you, Madam Director. Very illuminating. You've spoken very clearly about collaboration, about partnerships. You've spoken about skills and capabilities. You've spoken about empowerment. You've talked about resources. And all these require partnerships and collaboration. And of course, you've invited us to the Rwanda Summit, where all this is going to actually be discussed. We are saying that let us not leave women behind in the ICT world. And so now we come to the other collaborator. We're talking about partnerships. Child Online Africa has been a champion of girls, apart from all children. And we want to thank you for being a partner in this particular webinar. It just shows your commitment to ensuring that we don't leave the children and most important, girls behind in the ICTs. Now, to speak to us from Child Online Africa is a very distinguished member who is, and by the way, African names are so beautiful. Pronunciation can be an issue, but I hope I get it right. Ms. Ao Aidam Amenya. She's the Chief Executive of Child Online Africa. Please address us, Ms. Amenya.
Right. Thank you, moderator. You didn't crucify my name at all. So well done. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. It's an honor to team up with ATU in getting across this conversation. Clearly, it's an important conversation because for us, building the future means that equipping the future generations with the requisite skills that they need in order to get things going. So my goal is not to encourage the participants nor the young people, but my goal this morning is to speak to the role of civil society in ensuring that we have STEM rooted in Africa and have a lot of young people, young women for that matter, being part of the supply chain. So yes, so my presentation will be on the context of Africa, what has been found out by UNESCO and other stakeholders as the cause of the low uptake, and then how we can get it going in order to have an impactful young people for the African digital transformation agenda. And then what civil society can do in order to help unions like ATU, ITU, and government agencies in executing the agenda for girls to be found more in STEM, and finally the way forward. So Madam Alice, can you go to the next slide for me? Yes, so I'm looking at the context of Africa. When we talk about STEM, what has contributed to young people, young girls for that matter, not to be so seen in the discussion? And it's an issue of prioritizing the boy child over the girl child, even though some of the prioritization is positive discrimination. When it comes to STEM, it hasn't been that helpful and kind to young girls. So we want to see, can we reverse that? Can we improve upon that and get things going? The other thing which has been talked about has to do with the socialization we give young girls. So naturally, they have some fear towards the science, technology, engineering, mathematics subjects. Why is it difficult? Can we think about ways of getting mathematics a lot more girl-friendly? Or would we want to look at it from an angle that will make it more approachable to young girls for that matter? And the third issue has to do with the sociocultural issues. Clearly, parents have a role to play. If they discourage girls from doing courses around STEM, chances are that when they get to higher level, it'll be very difficult to get things going, which is why we are so happy that parents are on this webinar to share their views, maybe their fears, and then as stakeholders or partners, we'll see how we can put our thoughts together in order to help them achieve the goal of reversing, stifling the effort or the inspiration of aspiration of young girls in STEM. Next, please. Yeah, so when we talk about, for the purposes of the young girls who are on the call, when we talk about STEM education, we are talking about science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And in some cases, we add arts to it, so we have STEAM. So most often we interchange STEM and with STEAM and all of that. But it all boils down to women, young girls being interested in robotics, being interested in cybersecurity, other inspiring aspects that probably Ajua may be touching base on when we go on. Next one, please. Next. So how do we do this? From a civil society perspective, it's rather unfortunate most government agencies have been very avert to civil society name, but we are friendly foes. We just want to make you do what you have told us in big policies that you will do. So involving civil society is very crucial in achieving whatever goal we wish to achieve. Next slide, please. Yes, so from experience, I would like to share a bit on what we feel could be done in order to help promote STEM or make STEM for girls a lot more visible when it comes to our region. The first one has to do with the advocacy, which has always been the source of concern for most government because they feel that civil society calls them out. But we don't call you out for the wrong reasons. We just call you out to do what will benefit the end users. And we don't want you to also be reinventing the wheel when there is very little to be seen at the end user side. So that is why we do what we do. So we want to make it a point to have a conversation with policymakers like Your Excellency on the call, to just be sure that countries are doing what ought to be done in order to make young girls interested and enthusiastic about STEM. We also want to see an infrastructure in place to support STEM. For instance, in a research done by UNESCO, it came out that sometimes poverty also prevents girls from accessing courses in STEM. How can we make it work for them? Would we want to put in place center of excellence at places, strategic places where girls can access in order to up their skills, or would we want to make tools available to them? And sometimes data is even a source of worry for them. Would we want to make all of that available? So infrastructure is key. And then we also want to request for probably a hub which can help train these girls. Sometimes you can have the skills, but it's very difficult for you to be part of the supply chain if you are not guided. So would we want to introduce some aspects of things in terms of hub creation or mentoring at the policy level, just so it helps equip these young ladies to look up to mentors. And even ITU has just started a program, Women in Tech, which is mentoring young women. But I feel that that is even at the middle level of the profession. The young girls at the basic level, how can we then help them to do what has to be done? So that is in terms of the advocacy. In terms of capacity building, there's a need for need-based training, especially for even ICT teachers, because some of the teachers have discouraged the girls enough to take part in science-related courses. Why would they do that? If they are informed about the impact of that in terms of the economic change that women and girls will bring, I feel it would go a long way to helping reduce the loss or the lag that we have as Africans. Information sharing channels, we can make all of that available to young girls to interest them in working at what they have to do. Informal conversation with parents to understand why it's important for girls to be part of STEM careers and STEM programming. We can't do anything without evaluation. So it's important for us to evaluate what we have said at the advocacy level or the policy level that we want to do. Is it working, or would we need to retrofit it? Or do we want to adjust it to meet the needs of the specific girls? Sometimes the nuances are so many that cultural nuances even discourage them. Can we work to avert some of those ones? Right-based approach is required in getting all of this done. And then the fourth thing we feel can be done will be tools and other resources available to the girls. The STEM career goes beyond one particular system. So we don't want a situation where most of the girls are going towards robotic when other things are there for them to do. So how do we do that? It will only be through a multi-stakeholder content building. And we need to come to the table, just like we're doing today, in order to have that done. There's a need for research to trace how those who are already in STEM are doing, what can be done to up their skills, what can be done to make them abreast with time. So these are the thoughts we have when it comes to the promotion of STEM and what civil society can do or can take up to do. But then this can only be done when the country has a framework in place to work with. Just like the ATU framework that was launched recently. We can get that going and then we will see results in Africa. Next, please. Yes, so at Child Online Africa, we try to see how we can align existing programs because we don't want to reinvent the wheel. There are existing programs going on. How can we align them to impact on skills development for girls? So we have the Child Online Protection Initiative, which is by ITU, a very brilliant program, multi-partner, multi-stakeholder designed. But we can only be deliberate when we make that happen, because it's for boys and girls. But can we then see how we could encourage young girls to have their senses on the right skills, how to make good use of the space they find themselves so that they don't get discouraged from acquiring skills, as mentioned by the regional director in her delivery. We also have what we call the Africa Digital Leaders Program. It's more like a fellowship program, a hybrid fellowship program, which spanned for a whole year. So when you're on the program, you get to learn a lot of things, meet thought leaders to equip young people in whatever field they want to engage in. We have been very deliberate in engaging more girls than boys. But what we have realized too is that most of the girls, when it comes to getting data in order to connect on the program, parents are not able to give them the data, but the boys are able to have data in order to connect. So we don't know how we can fix that, but it's important to equip these young people to know how to maximize their opportunities and minimize the risk they could face online. Then we have the DQ program, the Digital Intelligence Program, which is targeted at both young people and teachers. So we equip teachers, parents, and young people on how to engage online. There are assessment courses that you take to know the kind of parent you are. Are you a helicopter parent, or you are overprotective parent, and what have you. So when you take the DQ assessment program, you are able to tell what kind of parent you are, and then the recommendations are given to you to change your skill in order to encourage your child to be what he or she ought to be. And do is advocacy, which we are known for. We make cases for in Ghana, we have been on the Minister for ICT to give us a framework for Girls in ICT initiative, because we have SCME program clinics, which seem to support most girls during their skills acquisition. And research also shows that most of the girls who take part in SCME clinics tend to have interest in STEM courses. So after transiting from the basic level to the junior high school level, at the secondary school level, they opt for science-related courses to help them build their skills. Next, please. So the way forward, how do we make this happen? Or how can we make all of these happen? It will only happen when we, at country level, make deliberate efforts at putting in place strategies that can help in implementing the digital transformation agenda for the Africa Union, which partners have bought into. We will also need to engage young people a lot. Sometimes if we don't get to hear from them, we make programs or interventions which are up there and do not meet their expectations. So we want to see more young people being involved. We want to see deliberate action at getting young girls to acquire skills that will help them pursue STEM careers in future. Next, please. That's what I have for you for now. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very, very much. Again, you can see we have people who have really thought through this as an issue that is important. And so, again, we hear the word deliberate. We are hearing now about strategy, and strategy is about thinking of the future. We are hearing about involving the AU. We have heard about involving the young girls as we develop our frameworks and strategies. And again, we hear about the multi-sector partnerships. And in this case, Ghana is talking about equipping teachers, the young people and parents to ensure that we involve girls. And again, they've mentioned about the STEM clinics that have served to encourage girls. And most important, she said that the role of the civil service is to, the civil society is to hold governments to account. They're saying governments, don't be scared of them. They're just there to hold governments to account. And so we are saying in this collaboration, in this partnership, is there a place for the private sector? Is there a place for the private sector? And next, we are going to have Alicia Tambe, or the head of International Organizations for Connectivity and Inclusion, META, which is an ATU associate member, talking to us about the role of private sector in promoting the future involvement of women in the African ICT sector. Ms. Tambe, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Cantus. Can everyone hear me? Is it clear?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. First, I want to express my gratitude really to be here among you all, Mr. Secretary General, as well as Your Excellency from Burkina Faso and all other distinguished guests and panelists. A special thank you to Child Africa Online and the ATU. This is just a great forum and an important topic to be speaking of. And Girls in ICT coming up on Thursday is honestly one of those events I look forward to every year. So this is just a really great forum to be a part of. As said before, my name is Alicia Tambe and I'm head of International Organizations for Connectivity and Inclusion at META. Our mission is really to give people the power to build community and bring the world closer together. But our mission in Africa is no different. We understand the importance of being local in a global world. And we really want to have a long-term impact, especially for girls and women. And I think it's important also to note, and that's one of the things that I'll be discussing is being specific in different companies of focus. So for instance, at META, we have an Africa policy team that we work very closely with. The Africa Public Policy team covers a lot of different issues, from human rights to connectivity to digital literacy and social programs. And these are very specific. And I think when you're thinking of the private sector and companies, you need teams that are working in each region, but on different specific issues. So just want to talk about some of the things that we have been working on that empower girls and women in Africa, as well as all over the world. For starters, when we're thinking about young girls and women, and I'm going to always include women because we want to know what is it that they're looking forward to. We can implement some of these programs, but at the higher level, if there is not something that is going to be sustainable and achievable, then there's being set up for failure to begin with. So I'm always going to continue to talk about women as well. But one area that is really important at META that we start with is research. The the private sector plays an important part in the role of empowerment of girls and women through funding and supporting this research, because we need to understand what are the barriers that are preventing women's full participation in the ICT sector in the first place. And we really need to know how we can properly address these gaps, because they're changing. We've seen during COVID, there's certain things that are changing that increases these barriers to access and affordability and things that impact girls and women. So at Meta, for example, we have the Inclusive Internet Index. This is the 3I report. Some of you may have heard of it, and we often reference it specific when we're analyzing different countries. It's a joint project between the Economist Intelligence Unit and Meta, and it includes gender indicators that really show different things, but one important thing is that it concludes that there cannot be an inclusive internet unless there is gender equality in using the internet. And the different indicators that are used are affordability, accessibility, and relevance. And you're able to search through different countries to see what each of these indicators specifically look like. Then we also have Facebook's survey on gender equality at home. And I think this goes back to what we were discussing earlier. I believe we were speaking of the role of parents and the household. And this specific survey discusses a global snapshot of women and men's access to resources, their time spent on unpaid care at work, and their attitudes about equality to provide reliable and accurate and timely information to support the progress of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So as we analyze what works for women, we also have to see what does that compare to that men have access to? What's the role of the home? Because young girls, may often follow in what's happening at home, whether it's with their mothers or sisters and such, and you need to analyze the whole community as a whole. So that's where we start off. But of course, after you have research, we need to know what are the benefits of being online. What does that really do for girls and women in terms of empowering the community? So there's a lot of different economic impact programs. I'll just go through one or two to give a snapshot. But we know when women and girls do well, the economies do well. So we have this program, which is She Means Business, and it provides support to thousands of female business owners across the world, but in Africa specifically. In 2018, we undertook a partnership with She Leads Africa to launch trainings across Nigeria for female entrepreneurs with digital skills. And then we expanded this program because I think it's very important for Meta to make sure that we acknowledge every single country is different in the world, and that's no different from Africa. You often hear people specifically apply something and say this will work for Africa, but there's several countries and you have to take a different approach depending where you are. So first it was in Nigeria, but then we expanded the program to South Africa, Kenya, and Senegal. And so far we've trained over 40,000 female-led businesses across those 4 countries. And we're trying to introduce business resilience and financial literacy training to really help them gain access to financial capital. And you'll see the reoccurring thing with multi-stakeholders is private public partnerships is very important. For this specifically, we partnered with UN Women and local benefit organizations in South Africa, Smart Ecosystems, for example, for women in Senegal, and Her Hustle in Kenya. So a lot of different organizations are a part of these programs. Then in general, we try to focus on youth programs. So we have Digify Pro, which Meta is committed to building a pipeline of skilled talent to help build digital industries across Africa. We know that the power of African youth is very important to help drive future economies across Africa. And digital industries is a really important contributor to local economies. So that's why we created Digify Africa, which is being implemented with Digify Pro program in Nigeria, South Africa, and Kenya. And we actually graduated over a full 100% of the participants, with 70% of those finding employment in agencies. So we see the importance of creating these programs, but then it really has to balance out it for what's happening. Are they getting jobs? Are they being able to have entrepreneurship ventures? And that's why we also created a 2-month boot camp that prepares aspiring digital marketers in the industry and gives them exposure to what it's like in the industry through briefings and agencies and partner programs. But we've talked about research being very important, and those different benefits we'll see through some of our economic programs. But we know that remaining safe online is very important. As you know, this year's theme for Girls in ICT Day is safety and access. And that's also a very important thing for us to have engagements with educators and young people to know how to use the internet responsibly for digital platforms in Africa. We have a program called My Digital World, which is Meta's digital literacy program that specifically runs across countries in sub-Saharan Africa. For example, in Nigeria, South Africa, Zambia, Ghana, Ethiopia, and several other countries. But we have, again, different digital literacy programs globally, but this is a specific program tailored to different African countries. And it was designed to provide youth with skills to navigate different digital spaces safely and responsibly. And one thing that we know is that educators are a very, very important factor in the success of girls to go on to use their ICT skills. So it's important to make sure that they're trained. We have a lot of different concepts of, train the trainer so we can pass it on. So My Digital World, it helps educators and trainers to introduce digital citizenship and well-being concepts. This specifically is for step-by-step instructions for trainers of youth age 13 to 18. So we're focusing, getting to that younger teenage before we're talking about these college training programs. But each lesson is fully adaptable. There's different pillars. We have an introduction to digital learning. Then there's digital foundation, which talks about personal information online, making sure that you're keeping that safe. Then there's digital wellness, how to protect your mental health, because it's a growing thing with bullying online and different aspects. And then there's digital engagement, which is how do you think critically online? How do you evaluate what to share from the media and information online and help and make sure that things aren't spread incorrectly? And then there's digital empowerment. This is how to use the internet to have a better change, and digital opportunities, sort of what we spoke about before in terms of She Means Business and creating a pathway for the next wave of technology and how to use that. So far, we have trained over 150,000 participants and reached over 2.4 million people through streaming, training, content, and market campaigns. And because of COVID, that's why we've included things like streaming, training, content, because like I said earlier with the research, it's so important to make sure that we take into consideration this new world that we have to adapt into. Those are just a couple of examples, but I think as we were discussing, there's certain lessons learned and things to think about moving forward. As a private sector member, it's so important to have these public-private partnerships with the government, with the different local organizations. We've had really great luck and just partnerships with local organizations, because it's not us who is building the community, it's those who have been on the ground and know different organizations, know how to make sure that things are implemented correctly. And then there's these different programs like we see at the ITU level that really help us to get that global snapshot of what's going on in other regions. Where can we have lessons learned, and what do we know what works for us and what doesn't work for us? Our teams at Meta have different regions, and we always collaborate to see what's working. As head of International Organizations for Connectivity, it's important to see these are the programs in Africa, but if this is a presentation for Asia, this isn't going to be the same thing. We're not having the same programs because we're talking about different regions, different circumstances. And as we heard earlier with WTDC coming up, that's a very important focus for us. We're very excited to be bringing a youth delegation with us to make specifically focusing on the Africa region. So our delegation is going to be youth from Africa. And just, it's very important to empower the region in general. But thank you so much for this opportunity, and just having this platform to really learn from the other panelists has been extremely helpful. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Is it Alicia or Alicia? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. A very, very wonderful presentation there. And my takeouts were being local in a global world. Being local in a global world is absolutely critical. And you've spoken about being specific in the countries in which you're operating. So we are saying our solutions cannot just be plastered all over the place. We need to get solutions that are specific to each country. And so you've talked about sustainability, ensuring sustainability, and that these solutions are achievable. But most important, you've focused on the place of research. Research being able to inform the solutions that are being carried out. And this is very, very important because a lot of people don't fund research. And so the PPPs, the private-public partnerships, then come in very important. So you've got the private sector, for example, funding the research that then informs the solutions that we're talking about. You've spoken about accessibility, affordability, and relevance, all being very important for the inclusive gender index that you carry out to inform the various youth programs that you have, the SHE programs that you have had, and the importance of safety, access, and responsibility. And so all these are tying up with the previous presentations that we have had, and all talking about partnerships. And so now we'd like to hear from academia, institutions of learning, higher learning, and how they promote the uptake of STEM education among girls and young women. And perhaps just before we go there, could we take a pause? Just take a pause, think about what we have had so far, and take a photograph, because we are now 87 participants. The other photograph we took when we were like 53. And so let's just make sure that we are inclusive even as we go about this presentation. So technical team, could you please have us take a photograph? Please put on your videos so that we can see you, and take a photograph very quickly before we go to the next presentation. Technical team.
Moderator, even as we take photos, it's also useful to remind participants to raise their questions in the chat, because the time we have may not be enough for us to interact verbally. So those who have questions, you may at some point just decide to pick a few of them. I see already 2 or so of them, but please raise your questions or comments on the chat. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And perhaps somebody, one of the interpreters, could read out the French ones in English so that we all get them as we go along, and we'll give you that opportunity. Technical team, tell us when we have smiled enough for your photograph. Have we? Technical team, speak to us.
Just a minute.
Thank you.
Okay, we are done.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Dr. Wale Olanrewaju. and I hope I haven't massacred that name. I'm sure it has a very good meaning. Dr. Olanrewaju. Trust me, I have really practiced it. Karibu sana, Daktari, and your address to us on the role of academia and research institutions.
I hope everybody is hearing me now.
Yes, we can, Daktari.
Okay, thank you, Madam Moderator. It's a rare privilege. I wish to thank the organizers and the agencies for giving me the opportunity to talk on the good practice and programs implemented by learning institutions to promote the uptake of STEM education among girls and young women. Actually, it's a rare privilege to be called upon, even though I belong to the academia, but unfortunately, I don't belong to the other gender. STEM, as we all know, is the knowledge of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. The importance of STEM cannot be overemphasized, as it plays an important role in the development of any nation or economy, because it forms the basis for different emerging technology that the world operations are hinged upon. Hence, the development of girls in STEM cannot be overemphasized because it played a major role in society. The truth of the matter is that the more girls in education, in STEM education, the more healthier, the more educated, the more empowered, the more productive the nation, because girls of today are mothers of tomorrow. Most presenters have talked on some of the gaps and the reason, the challenges, factors affecting it, cultural factor, family factor, curriculum factor, home factors, and other factors that affect it. Let me stick to the area that I'm supposed to talk on, which is the good practices by learning institution. Now, I want to ask the technical team to share my screen. To allow me to share screen.
Now you are able.
Okay. Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Now, in 2009, the National University Commission, which is in Nigeria, I belong to the academia in Nigeria, mandated most universities to start a center for gender issue. I belong to Federal University of Technology, Akure, and you can see our website, that's Center for Gender Issues in Science and Technology. Now, this is the only center, no matter the politics, no matter the number, that is being headed by female. You can see the director, who is a professor, Professor CEO Jagbemi, and their mandate is there to educate and synthesize relative stakeholders on the global trends in gender issues, especially those relating to science, technology, engineering, and mathematics discipline. Also to encourage and promote education in girl-child, especially in STEM discipline at all levels. To collaborate with relevant organizations, organs within and outside universities to ensure positive attitude towards female gender, to support increase in participation of gender, of women in the academia and leadership position in the university, and to conduct programs that engender value system towards promoting social and moral ethics. Now, I want to show you a page, a slide. Now, FUTA, where I belong to, is already on the Guinness Book of Records. This is the only university that has a couple, they are both vice chancellor at the moment. You can see the profile of the wife, who is also currently a vice chancellor, a professor of theoretical physics, a former dean, and husband is also a former dean, a former member of governing council, also currently she's a vice chancellor. What am I trying to say? In university now, we encourage, even there is a quota now that in all committees, there must be a female gender in all the committees in the university. Now, let me go back to the roles of the centers. Just like I said in FUTA, we have other universities. We have in OAU, we have the center we call Center for Gender and Social Policy Studies, Benue State University Center for Gender Studies. So we have in many other universities. But what are their primary goals in encouraging STEM? I divided it into 5 key issues. Sensitization talk. One of the things they do at this center is to catch them young and to let people know the importance of the gender and to remove the gender bias and stereotypes, especially the parents, and to also create awareness on the importance of STEM for girl child and in national development. Also to promote the image of women in STEM. So at the university level, the center goes to the secondary schools and primary schools to sensitize the public on the importance of STEM for a girl child. And added to that, they also do what we call mentoring and role modeling, active role modeling. Now, it is believed that early exposure of girls to female role model will excel, we make them excel and do well in life, whereby they let them know that they can do positively and do well as a mother, as a wife, and also to be in academics. So active role model, they has a strong impact on secondary school girls. Also, with regards to the mentoring and career talk, they also organize what we call career fair, job shadowing, enterprise education workplace, and what we call they even sponsors math teachers for them. They sponsor math teachers for them so that because that's the major weakness of female child, and this is one of the things they do in the university, promoting math skill and making sure that the way bringing their mindset, being able to handle the challenges of STEM, and also teaching the teachers in primary schools and secondary school on how to teach female child with regards to STEM education. Now, in universities, now that is when they are in secondary school. By the time, even at secondary school, they organize scholarships for them. They organize scholarships to encourage female child. Apart from that, what I discovered they also do is that immediately they get to the university, they catch them young through these centers. These centers have counselors, they have hotline that even when these female genders are having problems, they try to encourage them. And apart from that, what they also do, there is a scholarship basically for female child. And in most cases, for example, one thing I noticed in academia with regards to scholarship is that some conditions, ladies' conditions, women conditions are less stringent than male conditions. You discover that there's some scholarship that they peg a higher ages compared to their male counterpart at a lower age. And we have a lot of scholarships, foundations that sponsor basically girl child education in terms of in university. We have what we call Anita Borg Scholarship, Grace Hopper Scholarship, Schlumberger Scholarship, World Bank Funded Sciences for post-basic education, ExxonMobil Scholarship, which are basically to strengthen female child education in terms of STEM. Now, one other thing which they are doing in the center is what we call modification of curriculum. I read one of my colleagues' papers on ladies, the issues, challenges, gaps in STEM education with regards to ladies. And she now made mention of introducing programming language at the early stage of computing. The lady, currently, she's a PhD holder in computing, Akishonwo. She's Dr. Mrs. Akishonwo. And she said, introducing a girl child to programming at the early stage will discourage a lady that wants to go into ICT. And one of the things which they need to encourage is to first bring them into a kind of an interactive mode where they will have a kind of hands-on and they will develop their interests. There are a lot of things on computer which are not really programming that can interest a girl child before bringing up programming. It's unfortunate to say that even in my university, one of the first courses in computing is computer programming, Fortran programming. And in most cases, most people will not have interest in kind of program. So curriculum development is very important. Lastly, which have not been implemented in universities, but has been implemented in Nigeria, the quota system. The quota system, I will encourage that most universities, in terms of admission, they should encourage quota system. There should be a quota system with regards to admission of girl child in science and technology compared to male child. Thank you. That's what some of the things I've seen in terms of positive practices in university. Thank you.
Most grateful, Dr. for sharing those practical best practices. I want to use the same word in a sentence twice. Very important, Dr. mentioned, girls of today are mothers of tomorrow. That's so critical because we need to know they're the ones who will then nurture girls of tomorrow into ICT. He's mentioned various factors that affect the uptake of ICTs by girls. He's talked about culture and various areas of culture. But then the best practices he's then mentioned are issues, activities such as mentoring, active role modeling, where he says that these achieving women, the ones that we have seen presenting to us, we need to have you go down to role model to other girls because then you are practical examples of what is possible. Job shadowing, teaching of teachers of STEM, and most important, again, we are talking about curriculum development and affirmative action through the quota system. Thank you very much for those insights. I want to ask members to indulge us a little. This program was to end at 12:45. I want to ask you to just have some patience. We just have 3 more very quick presentations and we will be done. So just hold on. It's a very important topic. I'm not surprised that speakers are going above their time limit, but let's listen to the last few as we tie up this. Partnerships, collaboration. Is there a place for media? Has the media got a role in promoting STEM uptake of the girls? And to tell us about this is Ms. Millicent Mololo, who is a reporter with the Daily Nation. Millicent, I've asked for permission for people to stay on. Let's see how much we can move this very quickly so that we don't keep everybody for too long. Karibu, Millicent. Millicent, I saw you. I saw you. You checked in. Talk to us so that we know that you're preparing to address this team.
It looks like Millicent is on mute.
You think she's on mute? I can't.
I can see she's not mute. She's muted. Millicent, if you could unmute yourself.
Millicent, if you can just, by show of hand, if you can tell us that you're ready to present. Otherwise, we move to the next presenter as we wait for Millicent to get ready so that we save on time. Would it be possible then for us to speak to how a caregiver can encourage a girl or a young woman to pursue STEM education? I hope you can see the fact that this is an all-round discussion. Everyone must be involved. And so this time we want to listen to a caregiver's role, and that's going to be given to us by Ms. Caroline Ekiarisima. And Caroline is the CEO and founder of Computer Applications for Girls. And that's a Tanzanian award-winning social enterprise that empowers girls and young women to create the world they want to live in using technology. Karibu sana, Ms. Caroline, to address this wonderful team.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Itu, for this opportunity. All the invited guests available in this platform. I'm so grateful and honored to be Arsina as Mr. Kentis. I don't know if I'm right, announced. I'm the founder of Apps and Girls, which is also known as Computer Application for Girls. We work with girls and young women, girls as young as 12 to 18, and young women as young as 24. So we teach them coding and support them to create tech startups and implement them in the community. So we have an experience of 8 years working with this group of young people. And this experience has really given us as an organization, but also personally, the deeper understanding of young women and their goals and the challenges that they experience, especially in the field of STEM or ICT. When I started Apps and Girls, I was just a university graduate of computer science and had realized that the digital gender gap that was available in my community. And I realized the need to really start this initiative. But when I was doing that, the problems that I experienced are some of the things that I'm going to present here and also explain how I was able to tackle them, and also because the solutions that we gave are the ones which contributed to the successful implementation of what we are doing now, of having more girls in our programs, also having more girls pursuing STEM, the girls who graduate from our program. When we started Apps and Girls, like many people, parents, the teachers, of which those are the main caregivers of the girls that we are talking about, but also the community at large, they lack this awareness of ICT or of STEM. They don't know exactly, like a big number doesn't understand what opportunities does it offer. If someone studies a course studies computer science, what are they going to become? What type of job are they going to get? And if a girl starts engaging in such fields, what is in for them? And remember, like in our communities, most parents, you find they already have, based on their experience and what they've seen in the community, they already have specific courses that they feel like if their child studies this, they are guaranteed to get employment. They won't suffer waiting to get employment. For instance, we've seen many cases whereby parents, they push their children to study education because they know there is a must once you graduate, you get employed, because it's for the good, because they don't want their children to just stay on the street being unemployed, but also that limits the girl child the options to choose. So we started by creating awareness to these parents, but also to teachers who had different stereotypes behind them, like the beliefs and the myths, like the girls cannot excel on STEM. And we had such cases from the girls that we're working with. They talk about their physics teachers, chemistry teachers, how they feel like they're so incompetent and they won't excel. And we had to address that by creating awareness and helping them to understand how STEM is a field of everyone. And because the teachers and the parents and also the community surrounding them are the ones who stay with these goals for long. For organizations and the government, they just set aside. They engage at a certain point. But these people are the ones who need to be clearly educated to understand the importance of STEM and the importance of having more girls and young women in this field. And also on the same note is even up to now, most girls, they don't understand the benefits, the opportunities this field has to offer, especially on the field of ICT, because if you talk about robotics, it doesn't add up in her mind. Once I study robotics or once I participate in a robotics club in my school, how is it going to help me, you know? So that also is key. As a caregiver, we must invest more energy and more resources in educating these girls, educating and communicating the importance of STEM, the importance of ICT especially, and what opportunities do they does that field offer, especially in this fourth industrial revolution. Furthermore, what I experienced is that the girls really lack role models whom they can relate to, role models whom they can access and relate, like this is someone from my community and is able to do this and this. We have not been able to provide that to the girls, to be able to understand, like woman X or Caroline is a computer scientist and she's able to do this and this, and she went to organized schools like I went, and that means even me, I can be able to achieve that. But what we have mostly is we have different female role models from Silicon Valley and from other countries. And just like what Alicia said, we should focus on making it local in a global world. How can we locally find, like, identify successful women in STEM or in ICT who are doing amazing things? In corporate companies, we have very many female women who are leading different tech-driven projects or programmers or do that, but they are not known. So girls, it's hard for them to really think of considering a career in STEM without at least that a real big example of someone who has ever been in her shoes and has participated in the same career path and is being successful. So when we started Apps and Girls, of course, I shared my story to the girls and they could really see what I had done. By then I was creating different apps and I was lecturing at university and I was doing a lot. So the first batch of the girls that I worked with, they were all like dreaming and wanting to be like me. So that proved like they wish to have someone who relates to them, someone whom they can access, not people that we see online, not people that we see in different countries, but if we can bring even that neighbor who does something in STEM or does something in IT and have them meet or communicate or even make a recording of that person, it makes the girls understand that this is something they can also do. Because we need to understand that the girls we are talking about have different lives that they live in. Some are they live in very rural areas and their life is really totally difficult and totally different from the others who are in communities which are really communities which the same group. We need to target it differently, and then we need to communicate these successful women to them. And also, if we do that, this also will create like an avenue for mentorship, an avenue for a girl having an opportunity to interact with one of these women and also get extra support. But also, there's some girls also who have already reached at university. Yes, we are talking about, they're already in the ICT field, but of course they lack another extra support. They need to understand what is happening in the employment sector. What if I want to start a tech-driven business? What am I going to do? They need people also to look up to. And another thing that we realize, because we have at Apps and Girls, we have programs, training programs in robotics, coding, and all that. But we've had programs whereby, for instance, robotics, every year we organize a robotics team that represents the country in the global robotics. But this team usually is a mixed gender team. So we've had girls work with boys. But what I realize is that when girls are mixed with boys in the same environment and they are required to equally participate, there is always this hesitation that happens, and you find that the boys always tend to dominate the activities and the girls are just stepping aside a little bit. But we also tried it when we had a single gender, only girls, a group that we are working with, and we realized that they had even stronger drive, they had stronger passion and collaboration. And when we spoke to them, they were able to open up and speak out and say, it feels so beautiful to be in an environment where you feel safe, you're not judged no matter what happens, and you feel like you can relate with every person in the room. And that's why we actually created a girls hub that specifically deals with girls and coding and everything that is related to technology. So as caregivers, we need to create spaces and environments that are really safe, that make the girls feel safe and also facilitate equal participation. Girls have different challenges. For instance, a day when, let's say I'm the girl and I come in and it's the day that I get my menstruation, to be honest, you don't expect me to participate like how I have been participating without that condition. And it takes just one time or even just a small comment to demotivate or to make someone lose confidence or lose, lose that self-drive. Even it takes just one time. So if that girl in that situation and maybe is not able to move around in the room and do things, of course, at a certain point is likely to be labeled as lazy, as whatever that is that might happen. So such issues, then however small they might be, some of them contribute to also some girls not fully participating, in these cases. But I've witnessed girls who are working together and supporting each other. When one is not fine, is in maybe in her menstruation, she's not able to move around, testing and driving and operating the robot, but they understand, it's a community that understands the situation. So that environment makes the girl to be active and to be supported. But also we talk about, we're talking about encouraging more girls online, encouraging more girls to join STEM and or ICT, which also comes along with the use of online tools. And we all know that currently there's a lot that is happening online. There's a lot of bullying, there's a lot of trolling, there's a lot that is happening. And these things tend to scare away girls, even to make them even fear that, to fully interact or to fully gain passion to participate or to take on ICT related fields. So if we can create mechanisms which can create those online spaces safe, or as caregivers, if we can provide different mechanisms or guidelines on how these girls can be safe online to navigate the internet or the ICT tools, and be able to handle such instances, and be able to identify what kind of things are right and not right while online, that makes it conducive environment that supports girls to equally participate. And once they equally participate, even if it is as small as just using social media, that is one of the first steps of inspiring or encouraging a girl to step in further and consider a career in ICT or STEM. So
thank you.
With that, I would like to say thank you so much. Yeah, and it's been a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you.
Extremely passionate appeal there to caregivers. Most important, she's mentioned the importance of helping girls to understand the value that they get from STEM subjects and from ICTs going forward, what opportunities are available to them. And then she's also mentioned the issue of role models. And so the challenge is to the women who have made it in ICT to get back and be accessible as role models. And finally, obviously, she's talked about the importance of accessibility that is safe, that is affordable for girls to be encouraged to participate in ICTs and in STEM. Now, finally, we want to listen to one of the girls, what barriers hinder girls and young women from pursuing STEM education, and we want to hear it from the horse's mouth. Ms. Adwa Konadu Aboaje. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. She's an African girl pursuing STEM education. She's 17 years old, and she's a third-year high school student. Please address us and let us know what hinders girls. What do you see are the real issues around STEM education and girls? Ms. Adwa Konadu Aboaje, are you here? We'd like to hear from you. I thought I saw her.
Yes, she's there.
She's there, okay. Would you kindly address us?
Her mic is muted. If someone could help her, her mic is muted. Her mic is muted.
Your mic, unmute your microphone. The techies should be able to unmute her, to ask her to unmute. Ms. Adwa, Perhaps as we help her, Millicent, are you now available? And can you promise to just keep it at exactly 5 minutes? Millicent Mololo? Millicent? You are unmuted, so you should be able to, we should be able to hear you. Please go ahead, introduce yourself.
No, I really do. Your session came called and called and called.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
What's happening?
I don't want to answer, but I think the computer phones in his house.
We can hear you. We can hear you now. Please go ahead. We can hear you.
I told you anything. No. Just text me.
Kindly, let's give her time to just compose herself and get her presentation going. I ask that we are patient with her. Please go ahead.
Meanwhile, Madam Moderator, I see a hand up for Elizabeth Njang. Perhaps he's trying to help her.
Elizabeth? Did Elizabeth put her hand down?
Not yet, her hand is still up.
Elizabeth, why is your hand up? Do you want to address our team? We have a practical example of exactly what we've been talking about. We need to give her room and space to just compose herself and get her presentation up. So please just go ahead and get ready, and then you can address us.
Okay, so she can start speaking now. Okay.
Hello, please, good afternoon. Good morning, sorry. I'm Adwak Nedu, and I'll be talking on the barriers that hinders young women and girls to pursue STEM education and a career in ICT. So to begin with, in our part of the country, which is Africa, there are a lot of stereotypes regarding girls, the female child and the male child. And that's one of the main reasons that hinder the girl child to pursue ICT. Some of them include the fact that males do well or they do better in the science-related field more than the females, and the fact that the female's kitchen, the female's place is the kitchen and not the classroom. Also, the way the society is affects the way affects the girl child. The perception about girls taking some roles in the society, they feel that some roles are too important for girls to handle because the young women are not decisive, or they feel they are not strong enough to handle such roles. Also, lack of encouragement can lead to is one of the barriers that hinder young women from pursuing STEM education. the discouragement comes from our friends, our fellows, our families
No, I
in
think
various ways.
I was just concerned about whether there was someone helping the girl because she had been on the screen for long and wasn't speaking. But now it's fine.
SG, we can hear you. Please mute.
So the discouragement comes in various ways. People believe that the girl child is too fickle, so the girl child, they pass comments that bring their spirit down and bring down their moral. And also, when it comes to the girl child, sometimes distractions can lead to a deviation in our path. Sometimes we tend to care more about how we look like, how people see us. So it deviates us from the course that we've set for ourselves. And another reason is that we lack role models. Growing up into the STEM, when you're introduced into STEM and ICT, you try to get yourself ready, you try to go somewhere, you try to get far. But then there's no one to look up to. When you raise your head, all the various figures you see are male figures. There's no female to guide you to climb the ladder to where she is. So it seems you are left to struggle in the STEM field or the ICT field alone and all by yourself. And sometimes too, the reason why one barrier is funding. When you enter the STEM field or the ICT field, in Ghana or in Africa, we need more funding to push us up, to push us to get more recognition. But when you are trying to do it, if you are not from a well-to-do family, you might get stuck from at the beginning, because there's no one to sacrifice to push you. There's no organization to help you go up and then get you far enough. Also, there's a problem of gender inequality. We've been talking about gender inequality for long. It seems that it stops, but then it's still there. If you go to workplaces or other places, even in schools, they might pick a guy over you to go for a competition. For example, in Ghana here, recently, my school, Methodist girls, won a competition. Soon after, Prempeh also won a competition. The rate at which McGee's was held was high because it was the first time in a long time that a girls' school had achieved something in STEM. But when it came to the boys' school, it outrated the rate that McGee's was held, because they feel like boys, yes, they can do it, and they have done it. If you come to the Ghanaian educational system, to precise, when you are trying to do something in the STEM field and you seek funding, they will not help you until you bring something and everyone is just bringing in their funds to come and support you in it, just so they can smooth up your fame. For example, my predecessors last 2 years, the RoboFest, I received a message from our coach that when they were trying to seek funding to go to the competition, it was very hard. But as soon as they won, everyone was just pulling funds from nowhere to come. So if they hadn't won, they would have just left them to be stuck at where they are, which to me is not a good idea. Because even if they hadn't won, they could have with funding, they could have broadened their potential, broadened their horizon, and they could have gotten far. Others just drop out because they feel that if they are going to toil and toil and toil and no one is going to support them, then what's the use? Then they tend to branch to other places. Also, I would like to say that the colleges, universities, and workplaces in Ghana and Africa sometimes don't make enough arrangements for the girl child or the female student. If you take technical schools in Ghana, you find that they are mostly male dominated. Pick KNUST, the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, you find that there are more male students compared to female students. If you also pick other technical institutions like ATTC, you find that if you are a girl going to apply to learn in this institution, it won't be it will be like, it won't be, sorry, you will be shocked to find just you and a few girls, or just you in a class which is just all male. And this will just bring you down, because you feel like, one, the males will bring you down because the competition between you is high. Already they have stereotypes backing them, they have facilities and everything backing them. But then you are the only female, or the few parts of the few females who are trying to make a difference and then pursue your passion in the school. Lastly, I would like to suggest a few solutions to what I've said. Growing up, I haven't met anyone to be a female model in there. My passion, my role to pursue STEM education. But I met someone who is equally good, but who is a male. So I would encourage that there should be role models for everyone, whether male or female. The male shouldn't just focus on their gender, that so they'll just be pushing them up, that the males, because I'm a male and I've made it in STEM or I've made it in ICT, I should help my fellow males only. But rather, they should cut across, whether male or female. They should help everyone equally to pursue their dreams in STEM and excel in STEM. Also, I encourage that those females who've made it in STEM and ICT, you please come back and come and take a look at us and guide us, the new upcoming generation in STEM, to come and follow your steps and excel in this field. Because if you are not there, it seems that the path is just so short and then we don't know who to look up to. Also, I'll ask that the advocacy for gender equality be maximized. Because if the female child is always shut down because they are females, more and more people will lose their interest, will lose their passion, and then it will be a loss of great talent. Because there's a saying that says that the wisdom is not only in the mind of one person. Lastly, I'll ask that we begin to build the interest of the girl child at a young age. Personally, I got introduced to STEM education and in the secondary level, that's high school. But because if I was introduced to it in the primary level, I would have had much more information on it. I would have found out more ways to broaden my horizon, and I would have been involved in more activities involving STEM and ICT. So I ask that you please help introduce the organizations, help broaden and then introduce STEM at a very young age, so that young girls who are very passionate at a young age can carry it through till their old age. Thank you very much.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. We've heard from a young girl, and her message is very clear that we need to deal with our stereotypes that tend to disadvantage girls. She wants us to be role models. So the ladies who are up there, can we be accessible? And the word is deliberate. The word deliberate has been used severally. Let's be deliberate to be role models, to be accessible, to guide the young girls into STEM, into ICT. But most important, she has said, can we introduce STEM at a young age? Let's not wait until they are old. The time to get them hooked into or onto ICTs and STEM is at a very young age. I'm sure you'll agree with me that this is a conversation that is forever. It's not a conversation that we can just box into 1.5 hours. And so we need to wrap it up because people need to go into other issues. But it's a good start. And I have seen a number of questions on the wall. I'd like to ask Regina, there's one Regina from Cote d'Ivoire, there's one question perhaps that you could respond to. And once you have responded to that question, I'd like to request that the SG, John Omo, wraps up this session, which is really just a starting point, getting conversations going so that on 28th, when we celebrate the Girls' Day of ICT, we have things to think about that are real that we'd be able to take forward. Regina, very, very quickly, that question on the side, and then the SG, would you kindly wrap up? And thank you, Adwoa. Well done. Thank you very much. Very articulate. You're clear what you're saying. That's the way to go. And we look forward to you being the next minister for ICT in Ghana when you grow up. Regina from Côte d'Ivoire. Regina?
Allô?
Continuez, madame.
Allô? Oui, bonjour. Est-ce que je peux avoir la question, s'il vous plaît? Allô? Est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Yes. Yes, continue, Regina.
Ok, merci beaucoup. Je crois que... Excusez-moi le temps de m'installer. Alors, bonjour à tous. Moi, c'est Regina Fleur-Bessi. J'ai noté la question posée par le SG qui concerne le NAO. Alors, le NAO, c'est le réseau mis en place par l'Union internationale des télécommunications, donc le réseau des femmes. Et ce réseau vise à encourager la participation des femmes dans le cadre des activités de la conférence et au-delà de pouvoir promouvoir le genre au niveau de l'Union. Alors, le NAO est doté d'une équipe de direction par région pour ce qui concerne le secteur D. Nous avons des représentantes pour les 6 régions de l'UIT et nous nous penchons sur comment optimiser la participation des femmes déléguées à la conférence. Donc, nous avons un plan de travail qui est en cours de discussion en ce moment et nous sommes en synergie avec l'Union africaine de télécommunications pour ce qui concerne la région Afrique que je représente avec Cécilia du Zimbabwe. Donc, nous sommes en train de préparer au niveau régional comment avoir beaucoup plus de participation. Alors, à ce niveau, il y a un programme de mentorat qui a été également développé, qui a été lancé pour assurer l'échange de connaissances et d'expériences entre les représentantes déléguées qui sont plus expérimentées avec les plus jeunes. Alors, au niveau du NAO, l'un des challenges, c'est de pouvoir fédérer la question de la jeunesse. Et donc, je félicite cette initiative prise par l'UAT qui nous donne de discuter sur le cas de Child Online for Africa. Et je pense qu'au niveau NAO, nous discuterons sur la stratégie appropriée pour pouvoir adresser dans une globalité toutes les questions d'accès et de sécurité, puisqu'il s'agit d'accès et de sécurité, en vue de pouvoir dégager une stratégie commune qui pourra être partagée avec les décideurs, parce qu'il faut pouvoir impliquer toutes les parties prenantes, comme certaines l'ont dit. Alors, sur la question, nous, en Côte d'Ivoire, nous avons lancé une initiative. Je crois que dans les jours à venir, nous aurons l'occasion de le partager un peu plus en avant, comme l'ont mentionné Aïchatou et bien d'autres expertes ce jour. Il y a des initiatives qui naissent et nous pensons que la coordination qui est faite par l'Union africaine ne pourra être que bénéfique. Et je voudrais en féliciter M. John Omo pour cette initiative. Alors, je crois que je vais certainement partager le lien pour le NOW pour donner un peu plus d'informations compte tenu du temps qui nous est limité. Je vais le partager à Alice qui pourra refléter le lien de la page d'information sur le NOW. Je ne sais pas si j'ai pu adresser amplement la question, mais pour ce qui concerne le sujet de notre discussion de ce jour, je pense que nous devons réfléchir au plan national à des stratégies qui nous permettront de faciliter l'accès et garantir également la sécurité des enfants, donc de la petite enfance en ce qui concerne les questions online. Et donc, pour moi, j'appelle de tous mes voeux que ce genre de discussion puisse aboutir à la définition de recommandations qui pourront éventuellement être présentées sous les auspices de la région Afrique au niveau du groupe de travail du Conseil pendant les plénipôts et aussi en ce qui concerne les questions d'études, puisque je suis président de la commission d'études 1 qui traite des aspects également de protection des consommateurs. Et nous pensons que les enfants sont une catégorie assez sensible de consommateurs. Donc, nous pourrons continuer les discussions dans le cadre de la conférence. Voilà, je vous remercie et félicitations encore pour l'initiative. Back to you, please.
Thank you, Regina, for responding. And yes, do give us that document. We'll ensure that all the questions that have been asked in the chat are responded to. And I'd also like to express apologies from Millicent Mololo. Her internet has let her down, but she will give us her presentation. It's going to be in the report. And with that, I would want to call the SG Jonomo to just wrap this session. I apologize, we've gone well beyond 12:45, but I hope that it's been important enough for us to feel why it has gone a little over the time that had been allocated. SG Jonomo.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator, for a good course, I think. Let me start by, first of all, thanking the Honorable Minister of ICT of the good people, Burkina Faso, for sparing her time to be with us here virtually throughout the meeting. Honorable Minister, I really appreciate you taking the time. As I said earlier, it's barely 2 months since taking up your new role from your former role at the university, and you've hit the ground running. So I really appreciate your efforts to the ITU and to Child Online Africa for partnering with us in this regard. Indeed, as you say, Madam Moderator, it's a conversation that we need to have day to day in our activities as we plan for events, as we conduct our planning in our organizations. But I think there are certain key points that have come out, and I think what I got from the Honorable Minister is in terms of a deliberate national policy in terms of gender inclusion into various facets of our life, including, of course, social and educational, in order to ensure that that women are mainstreamed into our educational systems, especially for ICTs and science subject. And attendant to that, of course, is the various initiatives that the ITU has taken on board, including, for example, the one Madame Regina has just talked about, the NOW, which seeks to, bring on board women from various parts of the world in terms of their participation in ICT events globally and in influencing decision making. And also I want to thank, the talk by Madame Amenya in terms of certain, cultural, socio-economic, aspects of our lives that inhibit the girl child from pursuing STEM education. So I want to just highlight that as part of what we are taking home. Now, I think there's quite a lot to be done. There's quite a lot to be done. Earlier on in our discussion, one of the questions that was raised is whether we could, in terms of what the now is doing, ITU is doing with the now, and in terms of, some of the addresses that we always send to our membership to include women, especially young women participants in our events and in our meetings, whether we can have, a third of your delegations to the ITU WTDC coming up in barely 2 months' time from now, a third of your delegations to be women, and of their third, if a third of their third could also be young women that are showing interest in ICTs. And I want to thank those of you that have agreed with that idea. In our address to you, we will, plead with governments, plead with organizations to ensure that women, young women in particular, are brought on board at the WTDC. In particular, we have the Youth Summit, where we expect young people to participate, to tell the world what their issues are, to dialogue with the world, and to draw programs that will ensure that they are mainstreamed in ICT. And we at the union have pledged to bring, out of your own funds as members, 5 youth from various parts of Africa in order to participate, for them to participate in that program. And we do hope that partnering with other organizations, some of them present here, we can ensure that the African youth are heard at the World Youth Summit in Kigali. So I want to thank each and every one of you for your active participation. We will draw a report out of this, which we will share with the participants for comments. And then once we receive your comments, then we can publish it and share it with the various partners so that we draw action lines even as we proceed we prepare for the WTDC. So thank you very much from your secretariat. I really want to appreciate each and every one of you. We have a couple of events that are coming up, and I just want to invite Alice to make those announcements as we conclude. Alice? Alice, you read me?
Yeah, yes, Chief. Thank you. The
announcements of your events.
Yeah, thank you, SG, for the opportunity to announce the events of the ATU that are forthcoming. The key and 2 main events are the Administrative Council, which is the board of the union that meets every year. It will be meeting in Tunisia from the 10th to the 12th of May, and this is meant for the members of the council. Then we have the Conference of Plenipotentiaries that comes up in July, from the 25th to the 26th of July, but that will be preceded by a number of related meetings to prepare for the conference that will take place from the 25th to 26th. So the entire period for the CPL is from 18 to the 25. 2 days of those days will be dedicated to finalize the African Common Proposals to the ITU Plenipotentiary Conference, which is due to take place in Romania in the 3rd quarter of the year. In between, we are planning to also have the second follow-up meeting in the preparations for the Plenipotentiary Conference of the ITU, which is scheduled for the 30th of May to the 1st of June. And that will be online, and it will be available in our website so that as many of us could participate. We shall also have many other task group meetings. We shall update the information in the website so that you can find time to join us and contribute to the discussions. Otherwise, we just want to appreciate all of you for attending this webinar, and we look forward to collaborating together out of what we have discussed. Thank you.
That's all from us, everyone. Thank you very, very much once again for being here. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye-bye from us.
Yeah. Thank you for being part of getting an African solution to this problem that is our, within our continent. Thank you, everyone.
Merci, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. The CPL will be in Algeria, so you're all welcome.
Thank you.